curiosity, how many wind farms are in Crawford County?
None.
How many other wind farms do we have in Missouri, south of the Missouri River?
None.
I guess the issue here, we'll go, so you've been making a statement that in coal versus wind, the cost of producing electricity, that, wind's so much better. In determining that cost, and the amount of our tax dollars going towards tax credits to different companies, what, just out of curiosity, what does the coal industry receive as part of any sort of a tax credit, tax break, you know?
If you look at it in total, coal and oil receive much more tax breaks than wind and solar. It's not even close.
I didn't say anything about oil, but I did ask about coal. But when you look at wind, now are you aware of what the wind industry receives in the form of tax credits?
The wind industry does get some tax credits.
Heavily, $6 billion plus subsidized per year. I mean, if that's going in on the front end towards construction and so on, and there are inherent problems. I don't care what, which form of energy production you want to talk about. I mean, apparently, I'm not sure I understand why you don't care about killing bald eagles. But that's just a function of, at any rate, thank you.
All right, any other questions for this witness? Okay, any others to testify in opposition to? All right, we're going to start limiting, yes, we're going to start limiting to 5 minutes, so.
My name is Susan Cunningham from Pacific, Missouri, and I won't take 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I live about 15 miles downwind from the Labadie power plant, and let me tell you, coal is not the cheapest because we are the ones that are absorbing, excuse me, I have COPD too, so I'll do the best I can. We are absorbing from the air what's in the fly ash. We can see it coming out. The piles of fly ash near the Labadie plant, whenever there's a stiff wind, you can see it fly up in the air. I love bald eagles, but I'm not going to die for them. I think people are more important than birds, and I'm a naturalist. It's true these old plants need upgrading. There's money being made available from the federal government to monitor water and air from these plants that is being refused by the state of Missouri every year because DNR, which is affecting our DNA, is returning that money because it's not being appropriated through the legislature. There's money available that's not being appropriated. There used to be 6 DNR employees whose job it was to tour the state with air quality monitoring equipment. Now there's 1. You all were elected to represent your constituents. The people vote. As much as I feel sorry for the birds and of course the fish that are dying in the Merrimack River, it's the people who elect you. We elected you to protect and defend us and our babies and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Representative Love.
To inquire, please. Ma'am, have you ever had the pleasure of sitting around a campfire at night and enjoying that warmth off of those burning coal?
No, I'm sorry. No, I haven't.
Well, when you enjoy that heat, sometimes you get a little smoke in your eyes. And if anybody leaves here today, I want everybody to remember this. You can't get any milk with that aluminum mirror.
Thank you. I'll write that down.
Any others to inquire? Thank you for your testimony, ma'am. Others wishing to testify in favor of, or opposition to, I'm sorry.
My name is Lloyd Kleindienst. I'm an independent citizen from Villa Ridge. I actually came to have a statement about HCR 28, but hearing this as a similar couched resolution, I'm very concerned about the quality of our life, which depends upon the quality of our soil, our air, and our water. The external costs of coal-produced energy are not accounted for in the cheapness of that energy. Those same citizens who are paying such a reasonable rate for their coal energy are paying, I wonder how much, in medical bills for coal ash related, coal energy produced energy, excuse me. Also, there was the implication or the inference or the actual statement in the resolution, I believe, that our Missouri DNR is sufficient to manage it. As the previous person mentioned, their staff has been reduced over the past 10 or 15 years from over 2,000 employees to around 1,500. And I trust that there needs to be a harmonious cooperation between federal and state legislation and federal and state regulation. So I definitely am very dependent on the EPA as on the DNR of Missouri for my health and welfare. Thank you.
Proceed, Representative Brady.
Have you noticed in your lifetime that the facts and the figures say that our extended lifetimes, years that we live, have been increasing and increasing and increasing? And to the time that now a person born today is average life expectancy is going to be a male over 78 years and a female over 82. Well, if all of these pollutants were killing us sooner, which is what you were sort of saying, that life expectancy wouldn't be able to rise like it has. And so I'd like to hear your answer to that.
I think the medical profession has been playing a great catch-up game with patching us back together again, or creating chemical prostheses to compensate for the more and more dangerous environment in which we are creating. Likewise, it's simply not the extent of or the length of our lifetime, but the quality of our lifetime. And I think signs of, I come from an educational profession background, and we wonder why test scores are lower. There is a report by New York physicians
Sir, we don't want to go here.
Well,
We
there's a
truly
relation-
do not want to go
There is a
here.
relationship between the effects
Sir,
of the
we
brain
truly don't want to go here.
and learning.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. How many others do we have testifying against? All right, very good. Any others to testify for informational purposes only? All right, thank you. That concludes our hearing on HCR 28. 38, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me know my but for test scores.
Yeah, Representative Kirkman.
Okay.
Okay, all right, go ahead. You're fine.
We're going to go ahead with HCR 28 since it's kind of a related topic. But before we do, I want to announce that our breakfast this morning was graciously provided by the Missouri Retail Association and David Overfelt especially. We thank you for that. The sustenance that this committee requires is pretty substantial. Representative Kirkman has a nice way of saying we're heavy eaters. Representative Kirkman, whenever you're ready, proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. For the record, I'm Jeannie Kirkman, representing the 91st District in St. Louis County, and I appreciate the opportunity to present HCR 28. And HCR 28 urges the Missouri Department of Natural Resources to consider groundwater monitoring at all current and new coal ash ponds, and to clean up at coal ash ponds that are leaking dangerous chemicals. There are 32 coal ash waste sites in 12 Missouri counties, coming from 14 plants. And the coal ash waste contains heavy metals and some toxic chemicals, including mercury, arsenic, cadmium, and lead. Many of these ponds are unlined or have clay liners. I think with our karst geography in Missouri, and we have a great concern for groundwater, people who rely on well water for their drinking and consumption, and concerned about the leakage into streams. And I think that our state regulations are not as strong as they could be, so this just encourages the DNR to help us out with that. I do have a handout that I'll pass around that shows every county and plant where coal ash is associated. And with that, I'll take questions.
Okay, are there questions from the committee for the representative? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to testify in favor of HCR 28? I want to remind you that we've heard considerable testimony, so bring us something new if you would, and not reiterate something that we've already heard in the past bill, because we're kind of in crunch time here for moving along.
My name is Judy Dasvich. I'm from Springfield, Missouri. I'm a retired internal medicine physician. I'm a member of the Sierra Club. I would like to speak in favor of HCR 28. I have a handout for the committee that shows the toxic effects of the various heavy metals and poisons that are associated with coal ash. I'm from Greene County. City Utilities is our municipal utility. They recently had a site investigation that was denied by the Department of Natural Resources due to their requested coal ash landfill being placed on karst topography, which is highly permeable limestone, and in the words of the DNR, has a severe collapse potential rating. There are lots of springs in the area that have been shown to run off into tributaries that are supplied by water from this area. These are dye studies that have been done since 1975. And they show up in some of the wells. All of the 6 proposed sites that CU wants to put have been confirmed that there's been at least 5 catastrophic sinkhole collapses in these areas already. There hasn't been testing done since the late 80s. We know these are toxins. My question to the committee is this: what if we meet every criteria for economic success except one? We can't live here anymore. What if we can't breathe our air or drink our water? To have a thriving economy and nation, we need safe air, water, soil, and food. A coal ash landfill and coal ash leakage in our fragile landscape will work against this necessary goal. My patients have told me, even the ones with insurance for the last 30 years, it's very expensive to be sick. And these toxins produce all sorts of illnesses. Again, I will not belabor that point. I will give you a handout that produces that. In October of 2013, the John Twitty plant in Springfield had a malfunction. It spewed fly ash all over southwest Springfield. One person that I know who tried to clean it up got it on her hands, and she had immediate redness, itching, and numbness and tingling in that area. It's not benign. We need to be able to live here safely. There is potential for contamination not only of our local water resources, but the deep aquifer that supplies a 4-state area. All we're asking for in this resolution is testing to find out if our water is poisonous. and if it's poisonous, for it to be cleaned up. Thank you.
Are there questions from the committee for this witness? Representative Felton,
Inquire.
proceed.
You mentioned something about one of your friends or something getting that stuff on their skin. And did they have any long-term ramifications from that?
Yes, you can die from mercury poisoning. You can
No, that's not what I
die from-
asked. That's not what I asked. I asked,
Well, that's what's-
did she
that is what's
specifically,
in-
did she specifically have any long-term ramifications from that incident?
This happened in October. We can't speak of long-term health implications from something that happened 3 or 4 months ago.
3 or 4 months ago?
October of 2013.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Representative Remley?
I'd like to tell you just a little story that happened. I worked at power plant construction at Thomasville Energy Center, and they were running, they had a Burns McDonald's took the plate off of an existing line that was going out and it's full of fly ash. This plate blew off and started filling the building up with fly ash. I was working outside the construction on the conveyor belt that carried the fly ash out there. When we heard these 5 men screaming, we rushed into that building to save them. I could not see with my hand from my face because of fly ash in that building. We kept hearing the screams of these guys. I backed out because I didn't know the building. The guy came up to me and said, "Would you help me go get these guys? I know right where they're at." I said, "I don't know this building at all." He said, "Well, I helped engineer this, but I know it like the back of my hand." We held hands and we went through that building full of fly ash. When we got to the 2nd floor, we were pushing fly ash with our knees. It was filling the building up. And we found the 5 guys on the outside of the building, from the outside we could see. All 5 of the faces were matted up against a screen. An ironworker and I climbed up the steel next to them, and these guys' faces were crammed, trying to get air. Fly ash was coming through that screen right by their heads, and we got them, we chopped them out of there with an axe and got them out. There was 120 tests done on everybody that was involved in that rescue that was trying to find these guys. I had no reaction. I was covered from fly ash. I had a short sleeve shirt on. I was covered from fly ash from the top of my head to the sole of my feet. I'm not saying that no one would have reactions, but no one had any lung damage, and including the 5 guys that we pulled out of that fly ash. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but that was an emergency situation. As far as I know, because they asked me if I wanted to do tests on and I did not go in and get tests done. So, you know, it would not affect everybody. Everybody would be different. But, thank you. I just want to tell that story.
May I respond?
Yes.
Representative, did you have a brain biopsy or a spinal biopsy?
And that was back in the 70s.
Yes, so you did not, correct?
No.
Yeah, it would be difficult to ascertain the mercury damage to your nervous system, and it tends to be a long-term thing. For instance, early dementia is one of the things that is associated with mercury. That's a long-term thing, and you wouldn't know about that in the immediate aftermath, and you wouldn't know about it necessarily without a biopsy.
So you suggest I get a mercury test, or you could have a...
No, the damage is done, there's no point.
Okay, thank you.
Make it really super, super quick. Thank you. You're done. No.
To inquire. Oh, she already. If you wouldn't mind. Okay, specifically, we're talking about coal ash in terms of what your testimony was. Is there a great deal of difference between ash when we burn firewood, ash when we burn paper? Are we contaminating everything every time we burn something?
I can't speak to that. I would guess, and I'm only guessing, that the amount of pollution, if you will, or residue from that kind of burning is dwarfed by what is produced by coal plants, but I'm only guessing.
Well, but there you're talking about amounts, not about what actual, is the mercury or the other toxins that you're talking about in the coal fly ash, is that present when we burn firewood?
I'm not sure, I don't know that. I would guess not, but I'm only guessing. I'm not an expert on that.
Well, I'm just assuming since both of them are carbon structure and you're burning and it's the same chemical
Your
reaction.
guess
in the
is as
burn,
good as mine.
that
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm also a retired physician. My name is John Kissel. Spent most of my life in the St. Louis area. And I'm here to testify in favor of the bill. I think this represents baby steps in addressing what is a very serious public health problem. And in the interest of brevity, I know that you get a lot of information back and forth. And my main role today is to bring to you a report that's entitled "The Toxic Threat to Our Health and Environment, Coal Ash." I've printed for each member of the committee just the executive summary, 6 pages, takes about 15 minutes for you or a member of your staff to read it. And this is a report that was commissioned a few years ago by Physicians for Social Responsibility and Earth Justice. And it's being widely distributed by an organization that I'm a member of called the Union of Concerned Scientists. This represents some Nobel laureates and top scientists from around the country. And they're promoting this because they feel that the toxic effects of coal burning is one of the leading public health issues and threats to our health in this country. So I'd encourage you to take a look at this. And I would just say in response to comments from the previous bill that this is an area, of course, as you'll recognize in reading the bill, that is not regulated currently, a coal ash disposal business, by the EPA. So if the Missouri government and its agencies is able to protect its citizens and the EPA action is not required, here's an opportunity to step up to the plate. Thank you.
Okay, we thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here in favor of HCR 28? How many more witnesses do we have for this particular HCR? It's not going to work. Sorry, it just didn't.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing citizens to be here this morning. I think it acknowledges that each one of you have been elected by a group of citizens in your own community. This is my niece, and she's impacted by the impacts that come off of these coal ash ponds. We live near Labadie. My name is Patricia Schuba. Actually, we cared enough about this that we came together as a community organization to ask Ameren to build a disposal unit in a more responsible way than what is the current practice. I don't know if many of you know, but currently they just dig out holes in floodplains and dump the waste from burning coal into floodplains. Literally, it's sitting in groundwater. And by groundwater, I mean lots of groundwater. Our floodplains in this state are used for growing food, for filtering our water, and for holding floodwater, so we don't damage the economic bases that we live in. And what we are asking for under this resolution is that we require groundwater monitoring around those ponds that are dug into floodplains to ensure that those toxins are not leaching into our well water. In Labadie, over 100 people locally depend on well water, and I believe the first bill that was addressed this morning was about the right to have your own well water. Well, I would ask you to protect that well water, and if the utilities are not leaching these toxins like mercury and arsenic into our well water, there should not be no problem with monitoring around them. Currently in the state, we do not require that around ponds. Due to our input in the Labadie area, we hope to have groundwater testing around the old ponds eventually. but that might be years from now. And we drink that water, she drinks that water right now, as her brain is developing, as she's becoming a vital part of our community. So I ask that you consider that. I also am the fourth generation of a farm family, and I think folks in this building appreciate what farmers contribute to Missouri economy. And those floodplains are the richest soil we have in this state. And people that I know are farming in that floodplain in Labadie, so they deserve those protections as well. It is a minor thing to do monitoring around these ponds. We're not asking Ameren or any utility or a co-op that depends on that energy or a business in this state that depends on that energy to shut down those power plants. We're asking that they monitor the waste that we all know, that everyone knows contains these heavy metals and disease-causing chemicals. That should not be in question, what's in fly ash. And that there's a significant amount, not a small amount, being deposited in these floodplains that right next to this location, this is the location for the potential landfill in Labadie. I know people that our family have known for 4 generations growing corn, soybeans, sunflowers in this floodplain. So that's what we're asking for. So let's not muddle the issue by saying this is about who regulates. We're asking the state to regulate this. So I'd be happy to take any questions you have, but I come to you as a family member, a relative of this little girl, worked in healthcare for about 20 years, and a farm family. So I hope you'd listen to us, and we're also the people that elect you to be in this building. So I appreciate your service, but we need you to serve. Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. We're going to roll this thing over. I hate to do that, Representative Kirkton, but we don't have any choice. Got way too many witnesses. We're running out of time. Out of respect for the committee's time here, we have to be in session here in 20 minutes. We've got another bill to hear real quickly, so on the 27th, we'll take this back up again, give anybody an opportunity to testify in favor of and in opposition of, and for informational purposes at that time. That way we won't be sliding anyone.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Representative Weber. House Bill 1943.